Whether you says firing now, both together.
Firing now!
Press now.
And we didn't know how well the minefields were mapped when they were laid. And you know, we've all seen how the sand shifts in the Falklands, so there was always that, well, they'll have moved. You know, there's just so many things that we didn't know about it.
In the next year, we will be finished. And it'll be very sad to leave the Falklands. It'll be very sad to see my teams leave. Yeah.
And then actually, you know, they did it. They kind of did all these retrofitting of the JCBs and stuff, and it was like, wow, and like what a gift to get back. And it was really exciting to take my son on there for the first time, actually.
And I thought, wow, you know, this is my country, this is my land. Isn't it wonderful that I and others can share this now? And it was never going to happen in my lifetime. I was convinced of that, but it did.
"38 years it took from the end of the Falklands conflict in 1982 to the final minefield being released back to the public in 2020. A landmark moment which hit international headlines. Let's roll back the clock to 1982. The demining project was halted due to an inability to detect the minefields, with British Major Rod MacDonald saying, "We cannot detect these mines that have been spread so indiscriminately over the countryside." In 1997, the Ottawa Treaty was signed, meaning that Britain had to clear the mines at all costs, within an initial 10-year deadline being established. In 2005, a feasibility study was drafted, being completed in 2007, which was on the deadline with no new minefields being released.
What happened was that there was an immediate extension request put into the members of the state parties who are signatories of the convention, and then a further 5-year extension. So that took us up to 2019, and then a further 5-year extension was added. So instead of launching into this in one great go and thrashing around, you know, wildly, they took their time to develop the information, and it's been, you know, really effective.
The feasibility study brought up 122 suspect areas, equating to an estimated 23.3 square metres of land that is required to be cleared. The question was who was going to do the work. Under the International Mine Action Standards, there must be separation between the quality management and the land release contractor. The quality management was handed to Phoenix Insight, and the land release contract was handed to Backtech, which is now called Safelane Global.
So really the idea is to make sure that, you know, Safelane's feet are held to the fire all of the time, which can make for, you know, some difficult discussions that have happened over the years, but we've developed a very good way of working. You know, I'm there effectively as a gatekeeper to pick holes in that process. They're doing their work in accordance with environmental impact assessments, that they don't contravene the planning permissions, and so on. I'm the extra set of eyes, effectively.
On the ground, vehicles were rolled out and work began in 2009, with Phase 1 where 4 sites were identified: Fox Bay, Surf Bay and areas around Stanley for priority clearance. Initial work began slowly, however.
During that project, the conditions were horrible. Still manual demining to a large extent, because the demining machine they had back then was just the T75, which is the large anti-tank vehicle, which is prone to getting bogged, to be honest. It has its uses when the weather's dry and the ground is dry. It's a very excellent machine, but when it's wet, it's prone to get bogged in.
5 years later, just a handful of sites had been cleared. However, by 2015, the cavalry had arrived.
We purchased some very light demining machines. They proved to be, you know, a game changer really in the context of production. So I put that into context. Since January 2015 to now, out of the 122 minefields On these two phases 4 and 5, we've done about 112 of those.
Furthermore, over 2,600 anti-personnel mines have been destroyed. Goose Green was the site of some of the heaviest fighting of 1982. The minefields were the last deadly legacy of that sad period. It is fitting that we mark their removal.
Whilst the opening of Goose Green minefield was a major landmark in 2018, by 2019 there was another setback to the demining team, as the COVID pandemic and the shutting down of airlinks meant that the demining workforce had been significantly depleted. But much needed assistance came from within.
And I was also fortunate enough to get 10 volunteers to stay behind as a nucleus of deminers. And then we was fortunate enough to get a number of local plant operators to work the machines. That's really what won it.
With the minefield signs dropping and land being reclaimed by the public after years of inactivity, the final hurdle was York Bay. The site proved difficult for the demining team due to an enormous amount of sand that had accumulated over decades. Before the land was totally eradicated of mines, we were able to talk to the project manager, Richard Thompson, about how they overcame the challenge.
So we will use heavy equipment and machinery to remove that sand off the top of the dunes, reducing it down to 2 metres above the mine row, where we can put an excavator which can reach over and remove another half a metre or a metre of sand safely from above the mine row without actually sitting on them himself. The excavator will take the sand, which is from the dirty face, and put it through the Warrior. The Warrior has 2 screens and 3 conveyors. The smaller material will come out right-hand conveyor, which is actually where the anti-personnel mines will come out. And then right at the back comes the largest material, which includes anti-vehicle mines, the large mines.
Despite the machinery work, this doesn't mean the area will be totally listed as mine-free.
The ground is not clear until it has been physically cleared by a deminer. So once we've prepared the ground mechanically or remove the mines, deminers will go forward with detectors and confirm that area is clear before we move the marker pegs forward. At that point, we will then internally declare that area clear and ask DPO to come and verify it so that we can assure it and sign it off.
This explosion at York Bay marked the end of a £44 million project funded by the UK government, which was completed ahead of schedule and under budget. Many said it couldn't be done, but after 38 years, over 9,000 anti-personnel mines were unearthed, as well as over 1,500 anti-vehicle mines were unearthed, allowing the public to reclaim the land after years of a destructive Falklands history. Join us next time where we speak to those deminers on the ground that have come a very long way from home to complete the task, as well as some have even remained in the Falkland Islands to settle.
I would like to say we are the conquerors because we managed to get this to the end and give the land back to the owners.